Welcome back to What If the Avatar Had a Rival. To recap, in the last part of this What If, Zai has come across a deadly ambush while on his trip to visit the Earth Kingdom. In this timeline, in the year around 63 to 58 BG, to make sure the timeline makes sense, we have currently Roku mastering air, water, and earthbending. We also have Sozin training to become the Fire Lord. Now, let's get back to the story. As Zai finishes taking off the last part of the Dai Li, using his great firebending techniques that he has learned throughout the course of his lifetime, and how he has learned to adapt, as Zai has become very efficient in his firebending, he then rescues the people as they thank him for their rescue as they are finally safe. Then after that, Zai decides it is best to ask two questions. Zai then says, "Who's responsible for sending the Dai Li to arrest people like you?" The people respond they do not know, but they assume it was just due to a false report. Zai then asks, "Who are you people?" People then respond with, "We're the Earth Sages, protectors of the Earth Kingdom." One of the Earth Sages responds with, "We hope to keep the Earth Kingdom stable and follow the policies of Avatar Kyoshi." As soon as Zai hears this, he asks him where I can find the Earth King, as I would like to speak to him. One of the sages responds with, "The Earth Kingdom capital, but is heavily guarded by the Dai Li." Zai then responds with, "Don't worry, I can handle them." As Zai then makes his way up to the capital, an army of Dai Li agents arrive. With no words exchanged, Zai charges a fire blast, destroying the army as he uses fire to lift himself up into the air, as he avoids a fist of rock by running on the wall using his fire jets. As he then suddenly gets hit by a rock, he falls back down, but as he gets back up, he creates a spear of fire similar to Aang's air shield, as just to note, this person has more than centuries of training. As he moves further into the center of the Earth Kingdom, he finally reaches the side entrance where Xylon is telling the guards what is taking so long with the mission to get the Earth Sages. Zai then appears tackling the guards with firebending, as Xylon then says, "Who are you?" And then Zai says, "I'm a guardian of the Avatar. I help protect the world while the Avatar is away." Xylon then says, "What do you want?" "The Earth Sages told me everything about how you wanted to remove them." "Well, your time is over for dictators like you." Then Jylon responds with, "If you think you can hurt me, you're wrong." As Jylon then earthbends a massive wall at Zai, with him avoiding it. However, since Jylon is aware of the Avatar, protector of the Avatar's state of immortality granted by his spirit, Zai then firebends, creating a massive beam that burns on top of the Earth King's throne. Then Jalen responds, "My throne," as he then earthbends, running across it as he shoots a boulder at Zai, with Zai moving out of the way as he jumps up into the air using a massive kick of fire, as Zai also charges a ball of fire which burns Jalen. However, in this reality, since Zai is a superior bender, regardless of whether he has multiple elements, he has learned through history that violence begins with war, as he visits the best way to end this is by trapping Jylon in a ball of fire, with Jylon almost killed with the attack. Jai then leaves and decides to carry an unconscious Jylon as he then leaves. So then he goes back to the location of the Earth Sages through a trek throughout the night, where he meets up with the Earth Sages in the morning. He locates them as he tells them about you need to have stricter policies to avoid an Earth King from becoming power hungry. In the days that pass, a speech is given on how corrupt Earth Kings on how, given a bit of information on how the Earth King tried to hunt down the last Earth Sages, with evidence provided with the account of Zai as one of the Earth Sages become the new leader who sets to provide a new experience for the Earth Kingdom and make it less hostile. Zai is proud that he managed to correct the problem of the Earth Kingdom as it had so many issues, and that he will hope to never have problems with the Earth Kingdom again. As the fate of the Earth King, he is thrown in prison, which is heavily guarded by trusted members of the Dai Li. Zai then takes a trip back to the Fire Nation, where he continues living during the range of 5 years. On the way back, he thinks to himself on maybe he was wrong about the Dai Li, and that they are easily manipulated like pawns by the Earth King, and that he hopes a new leader will fix the Dai Li. Now after that, the conflicts was fixed. During the next years that passed from 58 to 55 BG, Zaya checks on the Earth Kingdom for any signs of chaos, and it is peaceful as the people are grateful for their new leader. During this time, Roku has mastered almost all the elements. Also during this time, Sozin starts to rule as Fire Lord. In the years that follow in 55 BG, when Roku has mastered all 4 elements, he attempts to enter the Avatar state. Zai hears news of Roku destroying a temple. He then wonders that Roku is in the final phase of mastering to become the Avatar. He realizes that he must train to eventually do a rematch against a fully realized Avatar. As Zai trains, we go through another time skip when war began to break out against the Earth Kingdom and the Northern Water Tribe due to when a tsunami hit Earth Kingdom territory. This time it doesn't really start, as both governments sign a deal of peace as they agree with the tsunami just being a natural disaster, even though that some Earth Kingdom citizens believe that otherwise it was a group of waterbenders who did it, but it's only a few of them. So after that, we can finally skip to around 42 BG. Keep in mind this is not the exact date, but a rather estimate of the time when Roku mastered the Avatar state, as it's not stated anywhere. So he arrives at his home, which is the Fire Nation, where Zai, Sozin, Roku all meet, finally happy to see each other after a long journey of different paths. Roku, now, since you're the Avatar, I'm at your service. Just message me when there's any problem you need help with, says Zai. Roku then says, I gracefully accept the offer, even though that Roku then says, I humbly accept the offer, even if some avatars in the past did not. You might be very helpful. Sozin then says, even though my job does require a lot of time, maybe we could plan a day to battle again to settle the score we did years ago. They all decide to take some time to plan this tournament, maybe involving a prequel tournament from benders all around the world inspired by the Fire Nation tradition known as an Agni Kai, however without severely harming the other opponent. It sounds great, says Zai. It may be months from now. As they then continue to talk and discuss how Zai is the same age of 20 as he once was years ago, as Roku and Sozin are now older than him. So after that, in the following months, Avatar Roku gets married around this age, and he invites his friends Sozin and Zai. In canon, after Roku's wedding, they discuss plans for the date for the tournament. However, just as they finish talking about the tournament, Sozin wants to talk about the Fire Nation and how maybe they should share it with the rest of the world. Roku then says the 4 nations should be kept separate and should not be disturbed. Sozin argues that there could be a possibility for the betterment of the world. Roku counters, saying that there are no possibilities and that he does not want to hear anything about this ever again. Zai looks at Sozin with noticeable shock, as he knows that this might lead to something worse, as he has seen throughout history that wars have been started by countless leaders, and he might have to do something. Why is it that air temples are able to be kept in peace, but not other nations? As he thinks to himself after leaving with Roku. Roku says, Zai, if what Sozin says is terrible, maybe he's just misguided. Roku says that conversation is already dealt with and there's nothing to be worried about. Stained by the experience, Sozin sets out to do what he accomplished anyway in the years that follow, and then after that he will expand it into the Earth Kingdom. He says 8 months later, at 41 BG, a tournament is held in the Fire Nation. As they arrive, the announcer says, "Welcome to the first international bending tournament. Prove your skills in these rounds." The announcer then continues saying, "Fight after fight, push your limits." The tournament, with the guidance of Zai and Sozin, was held on one of the Fire Nation islands. Benders from the Earth Kingdom, both water tribes and the home team of the Fire Nation. There's only 2 airbenders because their people are not really interested in senseless fights, as some airbenders did exist that defy these philosophies. However, it was the overwhelming majority, so I'm only gonna be kind and say it's only 2 airbenders that show up. After this, the announcer then says, "Who will be the victor of this tournament?" Alright, and then that's it for this part of this What If. I hope you guys enjoy this video as I attempt to make the series better as this series continues. So, in the next part we will discuss who will win the tournament,